the Conzia podcast, where we break down real growth strategies for Shopify entrepreneurs. I am your host, Zahid, and today we are diving into a major pain point for every e-com brand, which is customer churn. How do you stop customer churn? Well, Alexia from Omniconvert is here with us, and she is gonna explain what exactly are the right answers to stop customer churn. Alexia is a Shopify strategist at and a product manager at Omniconvert. She works closely with brands using their customer intelligent platform Reveal to transform raw data into powerful retention strategies. Welcome to the show, Alexia. I am very glad to have you.
Amazing to get the invite. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
My pleasure. So let's start here. Most of the store owners are really focused on new customer acquisition. A lot of them they don't pay attention to retention, but Reveal flips that and helps them see how LTV segmentation customer behavior can actually drive long-term growth. Can you break down what Reveal does it in a sentence so that our audience can understand?
Oh, in a sentence is not gonna be very easy, but I'm gonna try. Basically, it tells you what you're doing wrong. Does that work? Isn't this like it doesn't have a magic button, but it kind of explains some pinpoints. If you know where to look, you can definitely understand what is going wrong. We are not looking at acquisition, but we are looking at like zero party data that we're taking from the Shopify stores. Um, Wrapping up with our very smart calculus methods, and then we tell you, well, these are your margins, these are toxic products, these are um, your best customers that you can focus on, and obviously these people will churn anyway because they were not necessarily a good fit for you. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is what Reveal does.
Amazing. I love that. And for our listeners who are running Shopify store, could you explain a little bit more and go into details? So, as I understand, this is just not, like another dashboard. I see like there are hundreds of apps available like this. So, we would really like to understand what exactly is the magic behind. So, how does this work? How customers or Shopify sellers can use it? Share with us, because you are a technical product manager, a growth product manager as well. Share with us more details. How does this actually work?
Yeah, well, before I dive into how it works, let me tell you a story about how I did everything before I discovered the magic of dashboards and everything. Basically, I started my journey as a brand designer, let's say. So this happened a couple of years ago when I worked at a brand incubator and we were building brands. And when the pandemic started, we started focusing only on one brand that had the best chances to grow big, had a lot of sales, had was a best fit for the pandemic period, which was stay at home spa items. So we were selling gel polishes, deep powder, items that women used at home. And we were doing marketing like everyone does. We were doing acquisition, we were doing ads on Facebook, on Instagram. We had a community, we were engaging with that community. And at some point, customers stopped coming in because I don't know, you either spend a lot of money on Facebook new audiences that don't even work that well, or you start looking into making people come back. And there was one very funny thing that I did. So we're like, okay, let's start actually understanding who our customers are. Because we never did that. We knew that they were women, that they had to stay at home because, first of all, it was the pandemic, but who else? Like, what other women stay home? Like moms or um, like other women that are interested in self-care, stuff like that. And I figured out that they were actually like our target was like stay-at-home moms, younger people interested in doing their nails. Apparently, there were women over 40.
Hmm.
When we started asking them for pictures of their nails, for pictures of their collections. And we were seeing these very beautiful wrinkled hands, like stuff that people don't really want to see in like advertising. Everyone is like the most perfect hands in photos, in ads and everything, but our audience was like, we had women that were 50 doing their nails. Like, this is who actually wanted to buy our products. And I went even deeper. I started talking to them like, hey, what do you like about our products? And they were saying, oh, they make me feel younger. That was like, oh, it's amazing. None of
Mm,
us, we were like three girls, two guys, we were like a whole team of people in there, and we never even thought about asking our customers like, hey, why do you actually do that? So there was no methodology. We were only
mm,
looking at what would make sense for us at the time. And it was very funny that at some point I was diving so deep into let's understand our customers that I even looked over people's addresses. When in Shopify you can see where they live, and I was like,
mm.
well, let's see who Jenny is from Texas. And and I was looking over where they live, and I saw, and you start to see patterns. I was not stalking Jenny per se, but I was looking to understand a little bit more, like looking over our best people in the community profiles, like what other groups are they in, what other brands do they purchase, like what other brands images do they have in the pictures that they send us. And there was a lot of interesting things that we found out there. The problem is that we didn't have any sort of technique to do that, so we were just guessing. We were looking over things, we were not testing correctly. We were making assumptions, and everything worked at that point until I started my next journey in a Shopify development agency. And in in a Shopify development agency, you don't really discuss per se about retention, about marketing, but there are some best practices that I knew. I always told my customers to do communities, to talk to their clients, to understand the feedback. But again, not a procedure. I was not teaching them to stalk their clients on their shopping, like Google Maps and stuff like that. I kept that to myself. And then I joined Omniconvert, and here we talk about retention a lot. And I discovered, like, from my previous experiences, also from our team's learnings and everything, that actually what I was doing, it was I was basically like a couple of steps ahead, but still not reading, like not understanding every step in the journey. And everything made a lot of sense once I discovered this had a name. It's like it's some like procedure, some methodologies that I was following without even knowing I was following them. And that actually was very exciting. I was in a call with Valentin, with the owner of Omniconvert, and I was telling him, like, hey, did you know that one time I was looking over people's like homes on Shopify, like their orders, and he says something like, well, this is part of the methodology, learning more
Mhm.
about your people, doing
Yeah.
interviews with them. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. So I love those insights because so the decisions that you are taking or the way that you are building the product, it's all data based, and I think it definitely makes sense to know your customers, to understand your customers, because you have checked all those details, so you understand what exactly the problems are, what kind of demographics the customers are having, what kind of like age group they are having. And a lot of Shopify sellers, I am a seller myself, I run an agency as well, I build Shopify apps as well, so I have gone through all the stages. So a lot of people, they are just focused on getting more customers. They don't look into the data, they don't see what exactly they can do on top of that, they don't see how they can increase their order value from the existing customers. They don't have any kind of insights on the data. So these all the things that you are sharing, so I think this is pure gold. So I would like to understand a little bit more from the perspective of the product. So Omniconvert has three different products, um, and one of them is Reveal, and you are the product manager for Reveal.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more from the product side. So as I understand, people can download it on Shopify platform, right? So on Shopify App Store, is that correct?
Yeah. We basically have three apps indeed. All of them can be
Okay.
downloaded from Shopify. But yeah, Reveal is part of Shopify.
Okay.
You can work with it without being on Shopify, so we can work with like daily feeds.
Okay. Very
We are
good.
taking, as I mentioned, zero party data, which means we are only looking at the orders people have placed on the website.
Okay.
We are not doing acquisition, we're not guessing, we're doing predictions and understanding the exact numbers that you have in your Shopify store and kind of make sense of those. So yeah, we take all of that information, like all of the information about the clients, about but like not sensitive data in any way.
Mhm.
How many orders do they have? What products did they purchase? And then we start to calculate what are the chances to place the next order based on the products that they bought until now. When we're looking for patterns, there's patterns everywhere, like in
Yeah.
nature, in architecture, in everything, and there's a lot of patterns here. For example, we built a part of the dashboard to understand better your product assortment.
Mhm.
So for example, there are some products that you have that are actually toxic for your campaigns,
Mhm.
and I can come up with the example to kind of make sense of this a little bit easier. So I work with this client, and they sell leathered items,
Mhm.
like expensive stuff like that. And they have boots, and
Mhm.
their boots, because they're made of leather, they're of heritage, they are pretty expensive. So people were buying boots for $700, $800, and
Mhm.
the size were not a match, because this is what happens when you usually buy boots
Mhm.
online. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not me, like everyone had a return online with boots. I even stopped buying shoes online because of that. But imagine this being your first interaction with a brand. You're
Yeah.
buying a very expensive pair of boots. Like it's not like you're buying flip flops. It's like a very big investment that you're making, and you want it to be good. And you realize that the shoe size is not a good match for you, because I don't know, you have wider feet, and it's not necessarily written anywhere. And then you have to go through the return process, and it's creating a lot of friction that you don't really want
Mhm.
in your customer journey. So what they have done, actually what we have noticed was that customers had a lower chance to place a next order if their first purchase from the brand was any part of any sort of boots, you know and then it like flipped a switch in
Mhm.
their head. They were like, oh god damn it, we should stop. I don't know if I can say that, but yeah, they should just basically stop. They stopped selling, advertising boots as the first purchase
Yeah.
in stores, like they're not doing acquisition anymore of new clients with promotions for boots.
I think that definitely makes sense because the biggest mistake I see when I talk to Shopify brands, I do audit of a lot of Shopify brands as well. Sometimes they are selling, like a couple of millions a month. But the biggest mistake they do, they don't look at data patterns and they keep spending a lot of money. So you mentioned some of the ads. So actually, some of the ads big companies are running, they are killing their sales.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing more sales, they are killing their sales. If the product is faulty, or if there is any problem with the product, or people are buying one product, they don't like it, they are not coming back. So they, for a lot of customers, there is no way for them to actually see this data. And I understand from the perspective of running a Shopify business, it's a highly competitive business.
Oh, it
you
is.
have you have to do a lot of things on a daily basis. You have to sell a lot of products to stay competitive, and they sometimes they don't have time, sometimes they don't have people. So help me understand a bit. So I am a Shopify seller and I download the app on Shopify, or I install the app via Shopify store because I have a Shopify store. I go in Shopify store, I install the app. So the first question is the app, is the basic version for free or people have to pay right away? So can they test as well?
Well, they can install the app. We're giving 30-day free trial.
Okay.
My goal actually is to have the people onboarded in the app and actually using like a big chunk of its feature before going on a paid plan.
I love
So
that.
I would say that that's my approach. I prolonged trials for clients who were like sometimes it's very hard because it's not that I am competing with their time. Other
Yeah.
colleagues of them are competing with their time, other people are trying to sell them things. And so it's very hard for, like, usually these kind of people are like one person doing six jobs. They're overseeing acquisition, they overseeing retention, and it's not very easy for them to actually set up everything, because we can do a lot of setups, but ultimately there are some parts, for example, like a Klaviyo integration, where they kind of need to do it themselves first. And
Yeah.
so this is, I would say, this is our approach. The costs for the app are not high. You can see them on our website. It's not something for the value that it offers to customers. I feel like it's very fairly priced, and this is the feedback that we got from our customers.
That is good to know. And I love, by the way, the feature which is the trial version. I love that. So for our audience, guys who are listening, it doesn't cost anything. Install the app, test it out for 30 days. If you like it, you continue with the paid version. So coming back to the product side. So what are the, after I have installed the app on my Shopify store, I understand you guys have built up a really good product and it will analyze all my data. So what are the top 4 to 5 insights that I can see on a regular basis, on top of that the app is analyzing some of the data patterns? What else I can see? You mentioned Klaviyo as well. So
Yeah.
give us 4 or 5 points that people can see in terms of insights that differentiate Reveal from other apps which are available on the App Store.
Yeah, well, the biggest feature that it has actually is the RFM segmentation. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with the RFM segmentation?
I would like for our audience that you give a little bit more, like details. So we would appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. And we are basically categorizing clients based
Mhm.
on how recently they made the last purchase, how many orders do they have, and what amount of money did they spend over time with our brand. And we treat people differently based on these three factors. And so we've got, for example, soulmates, who are your best customers, who you should keep, who, if they have an issue, like, call them right away. If you want to send like your best campaigns with like amazing discounts, like send them to soulmates, because they will be so appreciative. And then we look at people who are about to churn. We have, for example, the about to dump you segment, which is people who haven't bought in a long time, don't necessarily have a lot of orders in their store, and spend some money on you, but not that many. We also have, for example, we can see Don Juans is how we call it. We have a very romantic approach in naming, in the naming convention. So Don Juans, for example, they purchased once, they're opening your emails, they're kind of engaging, but they're not necessarily going to purchase. So they're like, um they're trying to, making this romantic, they're trying to get in your pants, but it's not gonna happen. We also have people that are flirting with you, who have a couple of orders, again, have a good monetary value. They just made their last purchase, but it takes a while, and you have to approach them differently. And what Reveal does is it takes this RFM segmentation and it looks over everything in from a data perspective
Mhm.
based on the RFM scores. And so, as I mentioned, Klaviyo, for example, we push the RFM groups and people who are in the RFM scores into Klaviyo so that you can approach them differently with your campaigns. You can also create flows, for example, when a customer is about to go from a soulmate group to a about to dump you group,
Mhm.
and you can send a special email talking to them about your product and giving them a little bit of an incentive to bring them back into the soulmate group before they churn. So we look into that pretty well. I think that most of our customers have stopped using the Klaviyo segmentation in Klaviyo. Like, they only send newsletters and email based on the RFM segments, because it makes more sense than doing their own segments in there. And yeah, we look over how let's say how much revenue one customer group is bringing in, or what are the chances to churn, or for example what items purchased, like what was the first purchase of people who are now your soulmates or
Mhm.
your new passions, or like your best customers. Basically we're trying to revolve more things about around personalizing for each customer group. And yeah, this is a big thing.
Absolutely. So these are the big pieces of data that can give a lot of value. So as a Shopify seller, if I don't have time to look at my data, I am losing a lot of sales. I want to be very particular about that. I have seen this in my Shopify journey. When I started, I was always focused getting more sales, 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 sales. I didn't have time. Even when I hired people, they were also focused because marketing people, they are always focused. Sales people are
Yeah.
focused on getting more sales because that is how they are getting evaluated. But from the perspective of data analyst or the product manager, it is really important that you understand your data, you understand the pattern, you can see where you can get more sales from your existing customers. If there is anything that is hurting your sales, if there is anything that is hurting your brand, and that is why you need tools like Reveal to look at your data, to give you an analysis, to give you multiple charts. This is a great product, Alexia. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I would also like to understand more because I see you are a Shopify and Shopify Plus strategist as well. So share us with us a little bit more on that journey and also your personal story. You shared a little bit already, like the COVID times and everything, the way you were looking at data. So, but I would like to understand what exactly you do on the strategy side, right? How do you help brands other than being a growth product manager for Omniconvert?
Well, I'm looking more so. Let's rewind a little bit. In When I was working in the like beauty brand that I mentioned, I did a lot of things, you know. So we were
Hmm.
like an incubator. We were only a couple of people. We were doing everything. I was
Yeah.
doing. We were all doing Google ads, Facebook ads, banners, graphic design,
Mm.
Shopify design. I was also working with a couple of apps then, and I think that this taught me so many things
Mhm.
that now, you know, I'm very much of a T-shaped
Yeah, yeah.
strategy. So I know a lot of things from a lot of areas. But for example, right now, if you make me do Facebook ads, I would rather just coordinate everything and make you understand how to do that instead of going into there. I mean, I would rather work with people that are certain experts in
Yeah.
their areas. I'm not going to jump in and do everything for everyone because, for example, only like the Facebook algorithm has changed a lot. So, but like the strategy behind it, not that much. I mean, you still
Yeah.
have to target people in some ways and look over um, retention and getting people back in the same ways. But like that specific part, I'm working with experts. Yeah, and then I joined the e-commerce agency where I worked as a product manager, account manager, designer, strategist, a lot of parts because we were a small team. We had big clients, and we were all very all over. You know, we're doing brainstorm sessions,
Yeah.
and as much as the brands learned from me, my experiences, and my knowledge, I also learned a lot from them, you know, from their experiences, from what they have been doing in the past,
Mm.
from the mistakes they did. So yeah, I think this happened to you too. I mean, you also launched your brand and then work with other people and then learned like more mistakes and what not to do, right?
Oh, this is what I wanted to say. So I have gone through the same journey because when I started myself, I did not know how all these things work. So I have learned the hard way. I have burnt my own money as well because I experimented a lot with my own campaigns, my own products. I launched multiple stores. Some of them they were successful, some of them they were not successful, some of them made me money, but eventually, in the long term, I made money from Shopify, and that is how I started. building Shopify apps, and then we also have an agency now. And to be honest, I so that is how the journey should be. If even if you are a Shopify seller, Shopify owner, or you are a strategist, you have to understand the basics of a good design. You have to understand the basic how ad campaigns work. You have to understand how
Yeah.
multiple apps work. So because it is the complete ecosystem that you have to understand. And if you understand all these points, you can help your customers. You can be a strategist. If you are a store owner, you can manage your employees, you can manage your service providers, because you understand the Shopify ecosystem overall. So you understand the big picture, you understand, you see the high level. So I definitely agree. So your job is not to run campaigns yourself. It's mostly, like advising, building up a strategy. So the basic principle are still the same, even if the platform has evolved. It is more AI now, a
A
lot
lot of AI.
lot of AI, less optimizations. Before we used to, like manually search the audiences, put them, like in ad campaigns, and then doing everything manually. Now I have seen, or I advise people, let let customers, sorry, let Meta do all the optimizations, because the system is intelligent enough with AI that it outperforms people. And this is, like a great development. But of course, the importance of a human being or a good strategist cannot be ignored here, cannot be underestimated. And I am very glad, Alexia, that you have gone through this phase. You have learned all these things. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for sharing this with our audience. We really appreciate that. It was fun talking to you, and I am looking forward to do more of these episodes with you. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thank you so much. I would love to be invited again. We should do this more often.
We will do that for sure. So, guys, anyone who is listening, if you are a Shopify store, if you are a Shopify agency owner, or if you have multiple apps on Shopify, or if you work with an agency, or if you work with an app developer, you have something to share with our audience. We have more than 20,000 Shopify store owners following us, following our advice, basically learning from others, so that they don't have to repeat the same mistakes. So share your advice, come on my podcast, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will be happy to have you on my podcast, and you will be able to pitch to our audience. Alexia, once again, thank you so much for joining. Guys, thank you so much for being with me on this podcast. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.
Have a lovely day. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, so we are offline.